In this demo, we will take a look at EFS, Encrypted File System. What we'll do first is we will come into File Explorer, into the C drive here. Now I went ahead and created a folder called Data, and I created a file in there called File 1. Okay, now I'm logged on as admin, which is the local administrator for the computer here, okay, for the Windows 10 computer. So it's a local account, okay, but any user can come in, right-click the file, go to Properties, okay, and right here on the General tab, towards the bottom right where we see the Advanced button. If we select that, we will see Encrypt Contents to Secure Data. When we select that and select OK, that is enabling EFS. Okay, so at this point it's asking, do we want to encrypt the file and its parent folder? Okay, so that would be the data folder above or the file only. Now we can also encrypt the folder and it will allow users to open the folder, but of course the idea is the files inside would be individually encrypted. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go and say OK to this. Okay, and we will notice that there's a padlock on the file now. Okay, and that's how we can indicate that it is protected with EFS. Now, on legacy version of Windows, the file would turn green. Okay, so depending on what version of Windows you are running, it may still turn green, but it does indicate that it is encrypted. Now, I'm going to right-click the file again and go to Properties, Advanced button once again towards the bottom right. This time I'm going to go to Details, and we will see the self-signed certificate right there. Now, at this point, we could always come in and say Backup Keys, and it will bring up a wizard allowing us to back up this certificate. As I mentioned in the lecture, kind of like a spare key to your house, right? But more of a spare key to a file to assure that we can retrieve this data. Okay, now we will also notice that there is no recovery agent. Okay, so in a domain environment, the domain admin would by default be the recovery agent. But in a local environment, we must manually create that recovery agent. Okay, so I'll do that in just a moment. Just wanted to point it out here. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close all this out. We see that the file is encrypted. Okay, so I'm going to sign out and I'm going to log in with a different user. Okay, so I'm going to log on to student 2, also a local account. And student 2 will not be able to open up file 1. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have student 2 create a file and encrypt it as well, which means it will give student 2 a self-signed certificate. Now at this point, admin would be able to open up his file, student 2 would be able to open up their file. But if we want to share the files, we can add the certificate of the other user. Now I'm going to demo that, and whoever encrypts the file must be the individual that adds the other certificate. So as an example, if you encrypt a file, even though I'm the administrator, I can't just add my own certificate. You would have to add my certificate to your file to share it with me. Okay, so that's what I'm going to demo now. Okay, so I'm logged on to student 2, and when I come into File Explorer, to the C drive, we see the data folder. Now it will let me open it up. However, when I try to open up file 1, it's going to tell me I do not have permissions. Now the error message or the message itself can be misleading because at this point I might think it is a permission issue. Well, at this point I could have full control of this document. It will not matter unless I have a certificate. Okay, so what I'm going to do with student 2, who is just a regular user, I'm going to have this user create a file. Okay, we'll call it file 2. Okay, and you might even notice the notification that popped up on the bottom right. So Windows is always going to notify you, hey, you need to back up this certificate. Now at this point you'll see that the file has a padlock as well. Okay, but I do need to put data in there. So I'm just going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It has to have content in there to truly encrypt. So I just wanted to type something in there real quick. Okay, so at this point we have 2 encrypted files. Okay, one by admin, which is file 1, file 2 by student 2, who's logged on right now. So completely seamless to the user. We can open it up, we can continue to make changes, save these changes. It's just like a normal file to us. However, if anybody else tries to open it up, they will not be able to unless they have a certificate. Okay, so now let's share an EFS file. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is right-click File 2, go to Properties, and on the bottom right, Advanced once again. I will then select Details. Okay, and we see Student 2 certificate in here. But now I'm going to come right here in the middle and select Add. Okay, and at this point we see Admin on Client 2. That's the name of the computer, so it's showing the original certificate. Okay, now keep in mind it's the same computer, Admin 1, Student 2. So Student 2 can add Admin 1 certificate. Okay, so at this point they can take a look at it. Issued to admin, issued by admin, member self-signed. Okay, so at this point we can add that certificate, and that is how we share an EFS file. Okay, so now I'm going to log off, log back on as admin, and admin should be able to open up both files because he has a certificate to both. Okay, so now we are logged on as admin. I'm going to come right back into File Explorer, Data folder. Now, of course, File 1 is his, so he can open that up, make changes to it, and save it. Okay, but now he should be able to open up File 2 because Student 2 added admin's certificate here. And now you'll see that admin can open up both files, make changes to the files. Okay, so I'm just going to add a 0 there. Okay, so that is how we would manage EFS locally. Okay, but now let's take a look at the recovery agent. Now I'm going to come back to the properties of File 1, right back to Advanced on the bottom right, and then Details once again. We do not see a recovery agent. Okay, so we're going to create one now. All right, so I'm going to cancel this out. Okay, we will go ahead and leave this open, and I'm going to open up a command prompt. Now I'm going to run this with elevated privileges. I'm going to right-click the command prompt and type and select Run as Administrator. Now we'll open up the command prompt with elevated privileges, so we see Administrator here. And I'm first going to type in just the cipher command with a space /? so that we can see some of the parameters with it. Now if we take a look, you know, there's quite a few options for it, but in its simplest form I could do cipher space /E to encrypt, and then literally clarify the path to a file. Space :/data /file1, and it would encrypt it. Now from there we could do the same thing, cipher space /D to decrypt. Okay, so we see them right there, the /D, the /E. Okay, but we're looking to create a recovery agent, so we're going to come down just a little bit here where we see the /R. Okay, and as I mentioned in the lecture, it's going to create a couple of files. One's a .cer, okay, which is the actual certificate, and then a PFX file, okay, personal file exchange. Now there's many parameters with it, so we could also script EFS at any time. And then one of the things Windows 10 has also done is that even though it's a feature of NTFS, Windows 10 can basically simulate EFS even on FAT32 volumes now. So it is something that we can actually participate even on FAT now, which we could not do with legacy versions. Okay, now what I'm going to do is clean this up first. Okay, and then we're going to type in cipher space /R:, and then I'm going to type in admin. Now it wants it to be the administrator, but keep in mind the local administrator is disabled by default. Okay, so it will take a minute for this to kind of identify that and make the changes accordingly. Okay, so I'm going to go and press enter. Okay, now it's asking me to type in a password to protect my .pfx file. Okay, so I'm going to type in the password here. You'll notice it does not show it, so this can be tricky. And I'm going to press enter, and it's going to ask me to confirm that password. Okay, now once I do that, it says it will successfully create my .cer and my .pfx. And it creates it wherever you are in the file system right now. So it's going to be under Windows System 32. Okay, now the file is created for the designated recovery agent. So now what I'm going to do is come into group policy. Okay, so I'm going to type in gpedit.msc. This will open up the local group policy object editor for the local computer. Okay, and we're going to come in to the computer configuration, Windows settings, security settings, public key policies. Now we expand that, we will see encrypting file system. Okay, and it says no encrypting file system policies defined. Okay, this group policy has no encrypting file system policies defined directly to it. All right, so this is where we add our data recovery agent. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to right click and you'll see add data recovery agent. Now also before I do that, I want to point something out. I can come to properties and just disable EFS altogether on a computer, so that is an option. Okay, now I wanted to point that out. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to right click encrypting file system, add data recovery agent. Now it will bring up a wizard. Okay, and we're going to go next here, and it wants us to select the recovery agents. Okay, so we browse out. Okay, and we're going to go find the file, which should be under Windows System 32. So I'm going to scroll all the way down, and there is the admin certificate that we created with the cipher command. So we're going to add that in. Now right now it cannot trace it to like a trusted CA, so it's asking, do you trust this file? Now I know exactly what it is, I just created it, so I am going to say yes. Now it comes up as unknown, but that's what I was saying, we'll iron that out in just a moment here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and roll out, and at this point we will see issued to admin, issued by admin. Okay, and it is good for literally 100 years. Okay. Now from there, intended purpose, file recovery. Okay, so there is our certificate for the designated recovery agent. All right, so now we're going to close this out. We're going to do a GP update /force to make the policy kick in a little bit faster than it would typically take. Okay, and now we will close out the command prompt. Okay, I'm going to refresh File Explorer. And now I'm going to come back to the properties of File 1 and come to Properties, Advanced once again, and then Details, and there's Admin as the designated recovery agent now. Okay, so that is a little demonstration of encrypted file system.